Reno Cerbone, a proprietor chef at Heritage. Mayo was eating like antelope tartare at some Tampa restaurant. Have you ever dabbled in any like one of these Anthony Bourdain type of things? Have you ever done any kind of Bourdain type of dishes? Any of your restaurants? So where you had something that nobody would ever in their right mind order unless they were on some kind of hallucinogenic drug.
Listen,
they don't tip well.
People, right? You either get the people that are hallucinating and just like losing their minds, or you're going to get these very sophisticated people that claim themselves as foodies, and I automatically want to throw them the fuck out. Listen, public service announcement. Stop saying you're a foodie. That just means you're an asshole. That's all that means. That's all that means.
Substitute asshole. Foodies.
No, you're not. You're just really fucking opinionated. Eat and shut the fuck up and enjoy. Did you like it or not? Fuck.
That's sweet.
With you 1,000%. Yeah. Mayo used to be insufferable like that. Then he started admitting that he ate a Skyline chili as a matter of choice. Reno, we love you, man. All right, see what you can do on the ticks. We won't press it any further. I mean, if you give us a call, out of the blue.
I'll try my best to get there even myself. I'll let you know.
All right, my friend. Always a pleasure. We'll have to get in there and see you soon.
Cheers. Let's go, baby. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, Reno Cerbone, proprietor chef at Heritage.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
There was a lot there. I mean, that was from yesterday's show with Reno Cerbone. There were a lot of elements working there, Lubie. Not the least of which, I love that he said, you call yourself a foodie, you're just an asshole.
What I love is Mayo doesn't like the term foodie either, even though he goes out of his way to eat weird stuff that even he's not sure if he's going to like.
Yeah, is that being adventuresome or is that being an asshole? What do you think?
No, I'm being adventurous, but when the server's like, lamb belly, which is also a different dish, is really good, and 4 times pushes you to the lamb belly, and you go for the antelope tartare just to be that's being an asshole. I feel like
antelope tartare. Can you imagine?
It's fine that they have it, but if the server himself is pushing you away from it, there's a reason.
The guy's humming on his way back to the kitchen. Home on the range where the deer and the antelope play. I got another one.
Exactly.
Yeah. Foodie on table 22. He thinks the antelope tartare is going to be good. Well, and it was also in that clip. We accomplished a lot there because we did manage to schnorr for some tickets, although that has to be the longest of shots. No, I mean, never mind this field I'm looking at for the Belmont. Getting free tickets to the Panthers. I mean, is anybody out there in our listening audience, viewing audience? Is anybody out there in line to get some free tickets to the Stanley Cup Finals?
Well, we could have done press passes if we were smart enough to actually think about that, which definitely did not. I was
not a big fan of being in the press box for these kind of. Oh, it would have been an auxiliary press box up there. Probably. Yeah, so that would have made sense. You would have been in the stands with a bunch of freebie artists, but nonetheless.
Yes.
All right, so that might have been the approach.
Probably would have been. I didn't think. It's not that I didn't see them in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Would you have to apply to the league or to the Panthers for that?
So I mean,
that's interesting. Yeah,
you have to usually apply to the league, and that's usually like a series or two before.
Does every putz with a podcast apply for these things? And they have to weed them out. Yeah.
I'm sure 5 Reasons has a nice representation there, so we probably could have gone through.
But they're legitimately out there covering teams every day with people they assign.
We could use that legitimacy to cloak ourselves.
We're totally legitimate. What are you talking about? We don't leave the house. Except to go eat somewhere. That's about it. All right. So now Jim Sarney, who, usually I would think Sarney would be, he was upset with us, Lubie. He said that we're spending far too much time schnorring for tickets on the show. And now we want to get back to talking sports.
I mean, I would have done more.
You got the cricket championships coming up here. He did mention the cricket championships. I don't know if he passed that along to you.
No. He's even watched cricket. He's never mentioned fucking cricket.
Now, cricket, I understand almost all sports, to at least an extent, like basic knowledge, even soccer, right? I understand what the hell's going on out there. But nonetheless, cricket is one game, and you've seen clips of it. You see some amazing highlight catches and plays. It looks very similar to baseball. One of the weird things about it, and I don't understand this, when does the game end? Does it ever end? They play like 4 days.
I think they've gotten better at it because I remember Nicky Mohan, who's Trinidadian. and it's big down here.
Yes.
We have that thing that
They used to cover it in the paper. The paper. They used to have a Caribbean column. I forget if it was in the Herald or the Sun Sentinel, but one of those two major newspapers, when newspapers could be considered a major influence, they had a weekly column by some guy from Barbados or something who wrote about what was going on in cricket and island sports, man. Which I used to take a look at it, right? I see what Charlie Hussey was doing at that racetrack in Jamaica. But I never understood cricket. Do you? I mean, do you have any idea? It seems to be some kind of extrapolation, or maybe it was a predecessor to baseball.
Yeah, it feels like it started. And look, it's I think the biggest sport in the world, right before soccer, because again, India, it's huge in India and it's huge in the West Indies.
I mean, it looks like fun, except the ball is hard as a rock, and you don't wear gloves.
It seems hard as fuck to play too. Like you got to wait for it's got to bounce, and then what the fuck bounce it's going to take. But yeah,
Guerrero would have been good at cricket. Yeah, he was a good bad ball hitter.
Well, Vladdy would have annihilated. But
Vladimir Guerrero.
I think they've curtailed. Like it used to take up to 2 to 3 days. Like I think they've curtailed that. I don't know. My former in-laws.
It'd be like 116 to 109.
I've never even watched. I've seen like
you were looking in the box score to see how many points Larry Bird had.
Yeah, exactly.
That was great too. I mean, does Bill Lambier come out of retirement and sign with the Indiana Fever? He was big in the not the W. Yeah, he was. He was a WNBA coach.
Yeah, that's how he got like his
for many years, and was quite distinguished as a WNBA coach. Bill Lambier. You thought, why is this guy doing that? His parents were filthy rich. He made a lot of money playing basketball. What does he need this shit for? And he was very dedicated to it. Does he come back as some kind of physicality coach with the Indiana Fever? Do they try and get Ron Rothstein to be a consultant?
Honestly,
after his days with the Bad Boy Pistons, he was in the WNBA. Ron Rothstein as a head coach with the Miami Soul, which was a very short-lived franchise. Mick couldn't afford to carry the Miami Soul for a few more years until the league reached some level of prominence and recognition. Gone, my friend, gone. By the wayside. How long ago was that? And how many years were the Miami Soul in existence? I seem to remember every now and then we would go ahead and have a couple of members of the Miami Soul in studio, and they would talk about what was going on in the league. But frankly, nobody gave a shit. That was an unfortunate thing. And now they finally have a meal ticket, Caitlin Clark, and they just want to beat the crap out of her, knock her right out of the league. This Kennedy Carter, my God, that was one of the ugliest things I've seen, and believe me, I've witnessed every cheap shot and pathetic maneuver by people in basketball that, and you look and you just go, what kind of fucking asshole move is that? And that's what we saw. The league's kind of tepid to get in there. They raised this thing after the fact to a flagrant foul. How was that not called a flagrant foul to begin with when the ball was out of bounds?
I don't know. Look, because if you look at the actual contact, it's not like she took her arms and shoved her. She didn't put her in a headlock. She just out of nowhere hip checked her.
She cross-checked her. It looked like Carter Verhaeghe. Never mind Kennedy Carter.
And you could get her actually really hurt on that thing. But I mean, again, I don't know if they got a great view of it. And after the fact, of course, they did. I actually don't mind that she's getting welcomed to the league, and people keep saying that this supposedly happens to everyone. It's just now with the spotlight on her, now with social media everywhere, we're seeing the clips.
Well, they just make her eat a goldfish.
But I feel like that's not exactly the case. I remember I watched hockey has a lot this year. I don't remember seeing people taking him out.
Nobody just hit him in the head with an elbow while the ball was out of bounds, and he was listening to Eric Spoelstra say, hey, listen, Jaime, you got to get in there.
Wade started in the early 2000s, so it was still a very physical game, and you're allowed to get away with stuff. He was an athletic freak, and I don't remember them taking him. He fell out because he was physical.
That was the way he played, yeah.
I don't remember them, taking him out, and I watched a lot of Dwayne Wade when he was a rookie. I don't remember them taking him out, and he came in with a lot of LeBron. Same difference. LeBron came in with you couldn't come in with more pomp and circumstance than LeBron, and he was nowhere near the size he is now. And it was a very physical league when he came in. Same thing as Wade.
And the NBA was not, having its survival and its
based upon LeBron
well-being, fueled almost exclusively by the infusion of LeBron into the league.
And I don't remember
the league would have been fine.
Fucking taking him yes, social media didn't exist. We didn't freeze frame every fucking thing, but we watched it. We had Sports Center and there were highlights, and if LeBron was getting tackled by fucking Patrick Ewing, they would have showed it. Alonzo Mourning was taking out LeBron, they would have showed it. I don't know. It's in the middle to me because, yes, I do think you get welcomed. I think it's fine. I don't think they're killing her. But I do think they are being excessive. Like, it's not, well, the social media world. I don't know. I mean, they're fucking just hip checking her. This isn't the 80s. When did the WNBA allow people hip checking other people when they're fucking the balls out of play?
Not even in play, right? I imagine that. Well, I was going to take a proposition bet, and I think you're getting 6-1 on this, which is not a very big price. I would take it if it was like 25-1. That Caitlin Clark will sustain a broken nose sometime in the next 3 games.
God.
It's like she ran into Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. It's pretty insane. But is that good enough? I mean, people are saying, I was watching an interview with the former Herald reporter, sports reporter, and now internationally acclaimed sports writer, Christine Brennan of USA Today. I guess she's been with for the last many years, been on TV, always a go-to person for interviews on sophisticated topics like what the fuck is going on in the WNBA, and does a great job. A very lovely lady. I remember interviewing her many years ago when she was covering the University of Miami. It was always a pleasure to be associated with, and she was saying and agreed with the interviewer that, well, you know what? It is something that has people talking. Is that a good thing? I mean, it's kind of like we're talking about Donald Trump all the time, but for what reason? Because you're looking and saying, well, what else can this despicable scumbag do? Right. While the legions of MAGA maniacs sit there and go, oh, it's okay. Did I miss something, or did the weaponized Department of Justice not sit a jury yesterday for the president's son to be tried on what appears to be kind of a weird, that he lied on an application for a gun because he was doing crack cocaine at the time?
I think what's funny.
Is he the only guy in the country that was addicted to drugs that might have bought a gun and said on the application, nah,
the only guy that's getting
never touched a drug?
Because, again, that's what's funny. That, look, if they're getting into this,
I'm not justifying. I'm just saying it's weird.
Side only bitches about the things they get away with.
Yeah. Like, I mean, did you see this Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday at the hearing with Dr. Fauci? Well, what a disgrace that was.
I just love, like, even if Dr. Fauci was wrong about everything, which there's no proof that he was wrong about everything, like, you can't prove intent. Like, this idea that, well, he was out to murder people. Like, he spent his whole life dedicated to science and medicine. His whole life. He got nothing out of it. I don't care what backroom investments you think you found. The dude wasn't making money on fucking COVID. Donald Trump was invested in multiple fucking entities while president at the time. But you don't worry about him. There's no way he's doing illicit things. Fauci, who dedicated his whole life to science and medicine, who a lot of the things he did worked. They did work. I don't care what you want to believe.
I have a little respect for the guy, even if you think he's an asshole.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? The rule of law. Like, we just had the rule of law work and you were pissed. Every person around Trump's gone to jail. Every person. You didn't bitch about the rule of law then. You didn't bitch about kangaroo courts then or witch hunts then.
Nothing. No.
Get the fuck out of here. Like,
there hasn't been a witch hunt like this since Salem. It's amazing.
Why aren't they doing stuff like this for education? Why aren't they doing stuff like this to better healthcare? Why aren't they doing stuff like this to better our infrastructure? Why aren't they doing stuff like this to better our economic discrepancies between the rich and the poor? They're not doing, like, to have a congressional fucking thing over Fauci when COVID is supposedly done for 2 to 3 years. Like, they literally just want to waste time, and they understand this wastes money. When every time they fucking meet, they waste our fucking money. But they don't bitch about that, though. Like, get the hell out of here. Like,
it's just the way that it came about. I mean, even if you think the guy's the biggest asshole in the world, they still deserves a little. The guy's an 80-something-year-old guy who dedicated his life to public service.
He has a scot-free record. Scot-free. Like, he's not like there's
it was highly respected until he ran into Trump. That's for sure. And because he didn't agree with a couple of things that Trump said, like, why don't you gargle with Clorox? No, that struck me yesterday. It's like, wow, this country's really gone to shit.
And the current president,
this is an elected official that sitting there talking to this poor 80-year-old guy who, this is already old news, right? What are you going to do? Whether it was the right move or not, I mean, people were dropping dead by the thousands. And something needed to be done, and no question about it. But
Hunter Biden's sitting on trial. Do you hear Democrats fucking losing it over it? Oh my God, they're covering it. MSNBC is covering it more than anyone. Like, all the stuff they rant and rave about is never proven true. by the other. Like whenever they're like, oh, the Democrats are gonna fucking lose it. No, the Democrats don't give a fuck. You didn't see insurrections when Hillary won the popular vote by nearly 5 million fucking votes. You didn't see insurrections on the fucking Capitol. When literally 2 weeks before, the FBI released false information given to them by the fucking Russians in honor of Donald Trump. You didn't hear any Democrats running through the streets protesting. Like, when it clearly he cheated to get the fucking election. Like, just shut the fuck up. Go away. The fact that adults actually use their vote on Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, are you kidding me? You used a vote.
How does this woman get elected? Matt Gaetz, all of these guys.
Get the hell out of here.
Including the Trumpster. I mean, that still amazes me. Nobody's been guilty for a guy that screams all the time about election fraud, of more examples of election fraud. The Trumpster himself. But that's another story for another day. By the way, I did catch this. I don't know. Did you catch our man Mike Mayo on TV last night?
Oh, so you guys were talking about it. I don't have a cable, so I don't know if I have
PBS. You don't have public television. I think
I have to look. I've
like
never
mandated to be on every package. But no, did a good job. Really did. They didn't say where the young lady who was also a food critic, who I thought did a very nice job also. They didn't say where she worked, so she must be a freelancer and not have a job. Mayo wasn't sure. But Mayo, I mean, he was brilliant on this thing. Really, I mean, he really looked the part. He definitely did a good job. PBS, and that was Michelle Bernstein's show. PBS, Check Please, I think it's called.
Yes,
They would pick out like 3 restaurants and review them, and it was good. They did a nice job. The Catherine, Your Place, very favorably reviewed by one Michael Q. Mayo. Yeah,
I love it. That makes me so happy.
But he looked like a TV professional. I think you have definitely worked him into being a bona fide TV professional.
He's fine. I love that he was pissed that they cut out all of his smart ass comments.
It did look like it was an edited program. I mean, it definitely wasn't live to tape.
No, because they always do way more than they need, and then they take the best stuff. I'm sure he threw in some lines that they're like, "No, we're good. It's PBS."
It's a shame. You would think you would have free reign there. I mean, on PBS, right? It's public television, for God's sake. Say what the fuck you want.
It's classy, though, right? Like, that's the thing, isn't that the whole?
It was well done. I really, it was a very enjoyable show. If you were looking for certain places to eat, I guess, and Michelle Bernstein, certainly widely respected and well liked by virtually everybody, and a very accomplished restaurateur herself and chef.
No negativity allowed. How did he get through?
Imagine that, yeah. Man, that really sucked. I tell you what, for $14 for an appetizer, Christ, could they spare the portion? Very, very well contained. Mike Mayo.
100%. Well, no, he probably wasn't well contained. They just made it look like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you would swear that this guy was Mr. Positive. Yeah,
he goes back with Michelle Bernstein years, and there's a segment where they're just talking industry. That's his favorite.
I didn't see that. I didn't see any industry talk.
Oh, I'm sure that section they edited a shitload.
I think they edited it completely out, man. That's on the cutting room floor somewhere.
That's Mayo at his best / worst.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a good show, though. I would recommend watching it. And if you're a fan of Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, I think you'll see maybe a little, even a more polished side of Mike Mayo. You have to see this, Lubie, because
I want to watch it.
When his mind's wandering, when he's halfway in a food coma during the shows that we do, he's not nearly as composed as he was with Michelle Bernstein guiding the ship. All right, we're going to come back. Dave Hyde is going to join us here in just a few minutes. Dave Hyde of the Sun Sentinel, the premier columnist here in South Florida right now, and it's neck and neck with Greg Cody. I'm not sure. Is Cody still with the Herald? I think
Cody's
he might
still
be.
doing stuff. I haven't seen him in a long time, but maybe.
Yeah, I would imagine. Why not keep the job if they're willing to, let you do whatever the hell you want on the side there? And naturally, was a big part of the whole Dan Le Batard community on online and streaming, and they're doing very well for themselves. They managed to get the 50 million. They couldn't leave 1 million from FanDuel for us.
I don't think they took all the money.
That's all we needed, Lubie. That's all we needed.
On them.
Maybe it's around the corner. We don't know. All right, what is around the corner is Dave Hyde, and of course, many things to talk about, including zeroing in on this Panthers series against the Edmonton Oilers, and the more important question: what does it mean, Lubie, to the South Florida community to have this going on?
That's actually a good question. He's the guy to answer that.
Yeah. All right. We're going to come back with Dave Hyde in just a moment on that.
The time.
8:30.
Here, let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
This comes from the great Defo Lama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
Well, once again, everybody, great to be with you here, The Defo Show. We got Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest, and always a pleasure to welcome this gentleman to the program. And just when you're thinking, here we go, I'm going to have to get my GPS device out and see where the fuck Marlin Stadium is, Lone Shark Park, as we call it. And cover the dreadful Marlins to the trade deadline when they get rid of everybody. Here we go. Well, we end up in the Stanley Cup final chase. So something good to write about and a week to get ready for it. We welcome to the program the great South Florida Sun Sentinel columnist, Dave Hyde. Dave, how are you, my friend?
Defo, instead of finding out Marlins Park, where's Edmonton? Come on, seriously.
we were just talking about that. I mean, have you done a tale of the tape yet? Edmonton versus Miami or South Florida?
I just wrote about that today, and I Googled Edmonton and hockey. You know, I Googled, best hockey towns to visit, and it came up an Expedia site that Edmonton was number one.
Oh,
and number two was some city I never heard of in Nova Scotia. So they're as culturally and polar opposite from us as could be, isn't it? I mean, you couldn't have two more different markets than South Florida's casual with rabid. Everybody in the arena is rabid. I get that, but the outside is pretty casual hockey market compared to a place that lives for hockey.
Well, if there's nothing else to live for, I would imagine that would be part of the driving force behind the interest in the team. Now, this is one time, I guess, we've talked about this, with regard to other sporting events about whether or not you were going to be on the road and covering the team. But this is one time you'd be happy that the newspaper business was going a little bit light on the budgets, the travel budgets, because would you really want to be schlepping back and forth? And will you be schlepping back and forth? This is the biggest divide in terms of miles that you could possibly have assembled to put two teams in the Stanley Cup Finals. Are you going to be going back and forth, Dave Hyde?
Yeah, well, let's think of this Panthers road to the final. Tampa, I could have gone there, simple trip. Boston, beautiful city. New York, beautiful city. I didn't go there. They are sending me to Edmonton.
Wow!
No.
I think there's a punishment factor in
Exactly.
here. Right?
Screw you, Hyde. You don't want to go to New York or Boston? Edmonton is for you.
You don't have to get to Edmonton. There are no direct flights.
No direct flight. I would imagine not. Who goes to Edmonton?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I have to go through Denver on the way out. Over 8 hours of travel from liftoff to touchdown, and then go through Montreal on the way back. That's how you get to Edmonton. So
Are there hotels or igloos? What do you?
Do they have hotels?
Do they have hotels there?
I'm staying in a teepee. You know, it does have heat. It has heat, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, let's look at this from this perspective, because we've often called this the town without pity. Hank Goldberg forever was referring to South Florida as a bush league town. The Panthers gathered a little bit of momentum, I think, in terms of public attention and acclaim over the last couple of years, especially last year, right into the Stanley Cup final. They had that as a springboard going into this season. Had a real good year. Where are they at in terms of the public's consciousness? You mentioned, and I was thinking about this. I mean, I know they have enough fans to fill the arena, and it certainly make for good conversation once you catch on to what it is that they're doing now through 3 series. Where do they stand in terms of having an impact in what goes on in this city in terms of the attention that are being paid, attention being paid to the sport?
I thought it'd be more, to be honest with you. I thought, and I hoped, as someone who makes a living off of, of sports teams and followings and conversations, and I thought sustained success that they're having into the second year would be more of a driving force. And I get they're selling out and all that huge, but you tell me which is bigger, which are more people talking about, or for me, reading about. Dolphin OTAs, meaningless, ridiculous.
Tua's got to get his money. He's got to get his money.
Right. Yeah, the Tua contract or the Dolphin or the Panthers in the final. I really wish it was the Panthers in the final, but I can't say that it is. And so, it's disappointing to me in that regard. On the other hand, I like to write about excellence in any sports, and you're seeing excellence from the building of Bill Zito, which is where it really all started when he took over, to Paul Maurice's system, to Barkov and Kachuk and Forsling and things that we never thought about, the aggressive forecheck and that type of stuff on the ice. So it's I like to write about excellence, and you're seeing it play out.
Well, and look, and I appreciate you for doing that because, and I guess people would probably mock us because we forced the Panthers and the Marlins down people's throat for years. Because, look, yes, the Heat are now good, and they're good pretty much every year, which they weren't in '96. Fine. The Dolphins finally have hope again for the first time in 20 years. And the late 90s was nearing the end of Marino, and it was highly questionable what was going on into the next 2 decades of blah. I get that. But the Panthers have now become this. That's the thing. It's not even 2 years. It's like 4 years. Remember, they were a President's Cup trophy winner 3 years ago. And yes, they faltered, but they did win a series. Last year, they had a tough season, but got it together and did a very Heat-like finals run. And then they were, again, Heat-like this year, where they were great all year, struggled at the end, but then went right through a murderer's row of goalies, which is usually the toughest thing to face in hockey, and found themselves in the Stanley Cup and not going 7 games in any series. To me, that's the kind of thing that eventually warms over the South Florida fan base. That's the thing I've been thinking about lately. Is it's so funny how '96 caught fire. This team's way better than that team, and I love that team. That team was fun. Upstarts, Beezer and Ray Shepard move, and Mellenby and Stu Barnes, and I can name you the whole team. That team was nowhere near as talented as this team is. This team has staying power. Bill Zito has built a goddamn monster. They're literally the team that they talk about as much as anyone on the NHL Network, and that was never the case for the Florida Panthers. So to me, you don't think that at some point, we like winners down here. This team is not going anywhere. Bill Zito knows what he's doing, and they have a nice young core. That's the funny thing about this whole thing is Kachuk's their heart and soul. The dude's in his mid to late 20s. I know we're all jaded, but to me, it feels like if anything's going to bring fans into hockey, it would be this team, the way that this team is constructed, the way this team plays.
Yeah, and like you said, they aren't an old team. They are, Kachuk's, I think he turned 27, Barkov's 28. I mean, they got years. Bobrovsky's 35, so, that isn't going to ride out forever. But the manner they play it's a combination of great talent and rugged physical stuff that you don't see very often in hockey anymore. And the combination of those two make them if you're a hockey fan, casual hockey fan, or even a borderline hockey fan, they are a fun watch. And so my theory always was with the Marlins and why people didn't follow them, and with the Panthers and the Heat the other way, which you needed to sustain success. You needed fans to believe year after year after year. And so, we're in year 2, year 3 kind of with the Panthers. So I would think it keeps building. Now, how high it gets and all that, that's another matter. But I thought, like you, look, 96 was as fun as I've had covering a team, because it was a surprise. It was out of left field. Not only that team, not being a great talent. There weren't great talents on that team. It was the ultimate. They're bigger than the sum of their parts, or their sum of their parts are bigger than who they are, or however that phrase goes.
They're greater than the sum of their parts. That team
but also South Florida had no, it's 3 years into the franchise.
Yep.
So hockey was still getting a toehold here, and all of a sudden this team comes out of nowhere, and then that was a lot of fun. But this could be dynastic if they can keep it going. Zito certainly, he's got the Midas touch. You look at what one guy can do for a franchise. For 25 years they were down, and he starts wheeling and dealing, and he took over when Joel Quenneville was suspended by the league, kicked out of the league, and it looked like, oh, here go the Panthers again. They finally make a great move for Joel Quenneville, and it goes and it blows up in their face. They will find any way to slip on a banana peel. And it looked that way, and here comes Bill Zito, and he's Midas. I mean, you go through his moves, it's hard to find a bad one. They all not only are good, in many cases, they're franchise changing, and that's how you get to a situation like this.
Where would you put Bill Zito? I mean, I'm trying to think of brilliant South Florida sports executives.
Yeah.
You'd probably put Pat Riley there, number one. I know he didn't have the title of general manager, but he essentially was running the team and making the personnel decisions. Dave Dombrowski, of course, would have to rank up there, even though he wasn't here for a long period of time, still orchestrating the early stages of the Marlins and getting them to a World Series in the 5th year. No small accomplishment. I can't think of anybody with the Dolphins unless you go way back into ancient history. Where's Zito? Is he number 2 or 3 on the list of top executives in South Florida sports history?
Well, the forgotten guy is Joe Thomas with the Dolphins,
right,
in ancient history. But he's the one who built much of the early '70s Dolphins.
You weren't going to throw in Rick Spielman, Jeff Ireland.
We can go through the list of
Chris Greer,
guys with the Dolphins who have had good swings at it. That's
Tannenbaum. Yeah, Mike Tannenbaum.
And why I love covering good teams is because I've covered so many bad teams.
Yes.
You meet good people. You meet good people when the elevator on their career is going down, and you have to accompany them using bad adjectives. So it's always good to cover somebody where the elevator is going up and their team's winning. So, but Zito would be, we're still in the early swings of his reign here, or era, but certainly if he can keep this going, he'd be right up there with anybody you can name. Riley, because of the length,
longevity.
But he's made bold moves also, Pat Riley, which Zito did. I mean, the trade of Huberdeau, a very popular player, and certainly a guy that, if you were a hockey fan here in South Florida, you thought, wow, that's one good guy that we have. But to deal him and others that were significant in that President's Trophy run, and just say, hey, we're never going to win a championship this way. That took a lot of balls. A lot of these executives don't have that kind of nerve.
Oh, are you kidding me? If that doesn't work out, and
you're done.
He's probably gone. And they came right down to the wire of last year, making the playoffs after they won the President's Cup, as you said, best game of the regular season, and they make bold trades, and all of a sudden they're on the edge. If they don't make the playoffs, and beyond that, they're down 3-1 to Boston in the first series. If they don't win that series, I'd be, it would have been interesting to see the alternate universe here, where if they don't make that, does Zito survive? Because the owner, we had the best team in the league, broke it up, and
they're not afraid to pull the plug at any time in the NHL. That's a certainty.
You want a parallel conversation to this, and I don't have an answer, but it's something I'm thinking about. Is the Dolphins a blast to watch? They're very, on their best days. They were like, you go to the Panther games 2 years ago when they won the President's Cup as the best regular season team, and you'd hear chants of "We want 10," meaning 10 goals, because they were scoring so much. It was wide open, fun hockey to watch. And just like the Dolphins on their good days are wide open and fun, they do things nobody else does. Great entertainment. And the Panthers came to the conclusion real quickly with Zito, we can't win like this in the playoffs. And you saw why when it got to the playoffs. Now, where are we with the Dolphins? Can you win this way is the question. And I'm not saying you can. Again, I haven't come to a conclusion, but it's something I'm mulling over in my head. And turning it over, because they doubled down on speed and everything again this offseason. So anyways, off track there, but on track at the same time.
You would think if ever there was a time that the Dolphins could capture the AFC East, it would be this year, with Buffalo seemingly taking yet another step. I don't know how significant a step backwards, possibly. New England being out of it again, and the Jets counting on Aaron Rodgers solving all of their problems as they did last year, and it only led to more problems and more observations that the rest of the team, just outside of a couple of guys that they had drafted, wasn't very good. All right, and now we saw, and you mentioned the suffocating style and the forechecking, and everybody's taken notice of this, and it was alluded to all throughout all of the telecasts that we've seen in the playoffs so far. And then, of course, in dissecting the series through the eyes of my New York Post, Dave Hyde, they naturally were pointing out incessantly that Zibanejad and Kreider and Panarin were doing nothing against the Panthers' top line. And I don't know that people get so deeply into the subtleties, but then supposedly Paul Maurice had done an excellent job in mixing and picking and choosing players as he moved some things around on the other lines. Can they do this against Connor McDavid and Draisaitl? And I guess the other guy on that line is the Jewish kid, Hyman.
Hyman and his.
Yeah, I mean, can they stop those guys? Because Zibanejad and company, that's one thing. But, it seems like this will be a taller assignment. Do you see the same effectiveness maybe being in play here?
Well, it's interesting. Go through the series. They did it to Kucherov in the first series, where he was limited. Right. Stamkos had a big series. Boston, Pasternak, their big scorer.
Pasternak did nothing.
Nothing.
He did nothing other than go to the ice when Tkachuk hit him.
Yep.
And then the New York series, their top guns, other than Trocheck, were really pretty much shut down. And so, but look, Connor McDavid and Draisaitl are McDavid is the Michael Jordan of hockey right now. Without the titles, pre-title Jordan, completely different game though, and being able to win titles. And Draisaitl is his Pippen, I guess, for lack of a better analogy. So I asked Maurice yesterday, about the cat and mouse of matching lines, because all sports is matchups, no matter if it's a wide receiver, the cornerback, or the guard against the great scorer, and the great defender against a great scorer in basketball. It's the same in hockey. It's just harder to, unless you really pay attention to watch, because they're switching lines. And the question becomes, if you're the Panthers, I would assume you want Barkov on McDavid's line. Barkov's the best defensive. He just won the award, the best defensive forward in hockey, second time in 4 years. And McDavid's the best scorer in hockey, best offensive threat in hockey. Of course, if you're Edmonton, do you want to switch lines and change a matchup? So, but the Panthers even have a pretty good answer for that. The Bennett line is pretty good. Bennett's a nice guy to be able to throw out their second, or Lundell, depending on how Maurice wants to go. So there'll be a cat and mouse of how to match up and what team wants what matchup. And I'm curious to see how that plays. My hockey knowledge only goes so far to know.
It's pretty good, though, Dave. I have to say, very impressive going back to the Stamkos series of Tampa Bay.
I don't know how this is answered, though. I don't know. Okay, if you're Vancouver, or excuse me, Edmonton. I wish I was going to Vancouver. If you're Edmonton, what do you want to play out here? And of course, part of it is, the home team gets the last line switch on faceoffs, and so the Panthers can kind of structure their matchups at home, and that's on the road. Edmonton will get the last, line shift, and so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out here. If I can even pay attention, it's sort of like football in some regard. I need someone to translate some of this.
Yeah, the line stuff. I watched plenty of hockey, so I have an idea what's going on. I don't know about the line stuff, but what I will say is, and your former cohort Mike Mayo, of course, is going off the deep end negative because that's sort of his shtick, especially with the Panthers and Sifu. The problem is this time around it feels different. I will say that this isn't a team that just got in. This isn't a team that. No. And look, we didn't know at this point last year. But if you watched any of the Stanley Cup, you could tell this team was dead. That is not the case right now. And I think, and that's something that's going under discussed is I think them being so aggressive on the forecheck has actually saved them. I think going at it with teams and letting teams bring it to you led to probably a lot of beatings and a lot of injuries. I think from what we've heard, they're as healthy as any team could ever be in this sport at this time of the year with getting a freaking week off. And that has to have a lot to do with the fact that they're bringing the intensity, they're bringing the action to you, and it's saving them because when they eventually got to it in the middle of the Stanley Cup, because they had to explain why they were just looking so fucking frail, pardon my French, the whole team was injured. Like Kachuk had a broken goddamn collarbone. People were broken legs. They were broken arms. Like everyone was injured. From what we're hearing this time around, it is very different. On top of that, they now have the experience of being in a Stanley Cup. They did finally win a Stanley Cup game. Like to me, they have the home ice. They are playing. The Oilers in this case are the upstart team, quote unquote, compared to the Florida Panthers. Like it feels different this time around than the previous two appearances in the Stanley Cup Finals, at least to me.
Yeah, it certainly feels different. Well, 96 is a separate case, but last year, and even the players have talked to them, it's different. And it's different, as you mentioned, from a health standpoint, although we really won't know the full injury report till after the, I remember it used to be they'd in the day, they'd say, oh, it's left shoulder, which someone explained to me that's really that there's a diagonal rule in hockey. If they're saying left shoulder, it's really the right ankle.
Now it's just lower and upper body.
Upper body, yeah.
So, but the injury, to your point, it certainly seems like it's a far healthier team right now than a year ago. And then they have also they did that run last year, and yeah, it was a fun run, full of energy and everything, but they certainly learned a lot in getting there. And talking to Zito before the Rangers series, he said, what, it feels like a normal schedule of events now, of games 1, 2, 3. They understand the mindset, and it's not just this fun run through. It just seems like a normal course of events for them. So there's that. From having done it last year. And then just the fact that they're a deeper team. And Kachuk, I asked him about what feels different this year, and he just said, we got guys sitting out who contributed for us all year, the Lombergs and Cousins a Poso and Lorenz, depending on how the fourth line goes. And what you've noticed, if you watch, the fourth line matters. The depth of this team is off the charts. Yep. And so that gets back to Zito. But so, yeah, I think there is a different feel. And really the Panthers are the favorite in the hockey world. They're the clear favorite going into this series. And they would have been against Dallas probably too. But, this is one where you say, you know what, it looks like a title it looks like it's coming to South Florida for the first time since the Heat won in the second year of the Big Three.
Pretty amazing, yeah. I mean, thinking about the Stanley Cup circulating around here at the Elbow Room and being able to drink a pina colada out of the cup would be awesome. All right, let's talk about the status and the stature of Lubie's favorite player and one of his favorite targets on the show over the years. And I'll never forget this, and I can't believe it was that long ago because it had to be circa 96, 97, somewhere in that area of time. I've been fortunate to get paid to do appearances with a lot of the top stars that have competed here in South Florida over the years. And I remember pulling up to Beach Place, and I was supposed to be on hand as the Beezer was doing an autograph signing at like Lulu's Bait Shack or something in Fort Lauderdale. And I pull up to this thing. Dave, I've never seen anything like it. They literally were, you would have thought they were giving money away. The people were lined up around a block, down a street, all the way down A1A. You had them going all the way to where the fishing boats go out to get this guy's autograph and get a glimpse of the Beezer. Now, Bobrovsky certainly hasn't reached that stature in town in terms of public recognition. Where does he stand in your eyes as a playoff goaltender? Because we know that the reason that he caught everybody's attention as a free agent, what was that big run he had to the Eastern Conference Finals with the Columbus Blue Jackets when he was essentially, as they say in Goodfellas, Karen, that was all we had. That was all he had. Yep. But where does he stand here in South Florida in terms of recognition and appreciation?
Well, I'm trying to get my writing mind around this because Bobrovsky's 35. A year ago, starting the playoffs, he didn't start the playoffs. Remember, Alex Lyon?
He was suspect at best, yes.
Yeah, 2 years ago, he was benched in the playoffs for rookie Spencer Knight.
Yes.
So it's how many, and I was trying to think of this, how many players in sports in the final chapter of their career or close to it, all of a sudden reinvent themselves to greatness? And that's really where Bobrovsky is. In the first three series this year, everybody talked about the goalies, Vasilevsky for Tampa Bay and Swayman for Boston is the future great goalie in hockey. And then this past one, of course, Shesterkin got all the attention.
He was brilliant too. Yeah.
Yeah, for good reason. All those guys. Well, Vasilevsky was okay.
Yeah, Vasilevsky
he wasn't great anymore.
He's had a great career, and yet Bobrovsky, if he didn't match them, he was right with them or close to them, and it's just different in that the poll, the Rangers talked about it after this. Peter Laviolette, the coach, talked about how, look, this is a defensive system, and they're a hard defense to get through the middle ice, get shots on it, and Paul Maurice, even to his point, when they lost 5-4 in overtime, and everybody's asking about shots and the offense, and he goes, look, the offense wasn't the issue. And you look at what they've given up: 2 goals, 1 goal for 9 of their 11 games. The past 11 games, the past 2 series, the opponent hasn't scored more than 2 goals, and that's their recipe to win. Bobrovsky, of course, is the backbone of that. And the question I have, what the heck happened to him in the past year?
Yeah.
What? And I can't find the answer to that.
Yeah. I think he went and had some kind of eye surgery. Because he came in, he looked like he had developed a tick when he first. They literally, we say this all the time, but people wanted to put him on a rubber raft and send him to Havana, just through the Florida Straits.
Bought out.
Yeah,
he bought out after last year, and probably go back to Russia and finish his career. That was sort of the whispers around the Panthers, and then he has this incredible run, and picks right up this year, and he's the same guy, and so what happened? I don't know. I've asked him, and I've asked people around the Panthers, and I don't have a great answer.
Well, could it just be, and that's what Laviolette's saying is, and that's what I give him crap because I watch all these other guys stopping these barrages, and I'm like, I don't see him doing that. But could it be that simple that they're not letting the barrages get to him? Like they're if you notice, all 3 series, they're limiting the other team's shots so much that it allows him to just only have to stop a few here and there. And that seems to be what he excels at, because in the past, whenever they were getting outshot is when he sort of fell asunder. And when you watch this Ranger series, they outshot them every game, and they were controlling the tempo, and they were controlling the puck and the offensive ice time that allows Bobrovsky to just have to only do so much. And it feels like any goalie, especially Bobrovsky, excels at that point.
Well, it could. Except I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah. He's also had stop breakaways. I mean, you think
he's been great.
In Boston, they still talk about, not this year, the previous year, when Marchand has a breakaway at the end of Game 7 and Bobrovsky stops him. If they score that goal, again, everything changes with the Panthers. Everything, the whole script. So you certainly can't diminish, or not that anybody's diminishing, but he's right there with the central themes of how they've gotten to where they have. And again, it's one of the remarkable turnarounds for a guy now 35, and at 34, he wasn't starting over a career minor leaguer. And the year before, he was being replaced by a rookie. And so, I was trying, what's close to that in sports? Kurt Warner coming back with his second time, the Cardinals, and winning. I mean, that's the only, Al Horford maybe with the Celtics now. He's having a great run, but he was really good before. It's not like he had a couple down years, but he was really good in his 20s and early 30s. So there's not many guys who have done what, the career arc like Bobrovsky has.
All right, final thing, and we always say this, Dave, but it doesn't necessarily apply in your case, that if you could book the media's action, you would be a rich person today. So a prediction here, I'm perusing the odds. Panthers in 4, which seems unlikely, but nonetheless looms as a possibility. 11-1 you get on that. Yeah. I'm inclined to think Panthers in 6 because that's like an easy number to come up with. You're getting 5-1 on that. What is your prediction for the series? Have you given that any thought yet?
I took the easy 5-1 in my column today. At the end of it,
Panthers in 6.
They're just as the Rangers said, they come at you in waves, and over the course of a series, it wears you down. And I just think it's their time. They went through the apprenticeship last year, as fun as that was. And you can see they're very serious about winning at this time, and so I talent and timing, and get ready for a party on Las Olas Boulevard.
Oh my God, that'd be
all right, sounds good, and we'll look forward to reading all of your takes and accounts of what's about to transpire and what's coming up, and we wish you the best. I mean, who knows? Maybe you'll fall in love with Edmonton while you're out there, and. It happened to Marty Klinkenberg, right? I mean, didn't he end up like in Edmonton from his days at the Miami News?
Yeah, I'm not there. I mean, you think of it, the only people. What do you know about Edmonton? Wayne Gretzky,
and Messier. That's it.
Gretzky, they had a great run,
but they were drafted. They didn't go there voluntarily. They were drafted.
No one would.
He lives in Florida now. Yes. Here,
100%.
I mean, he's no dummy. So. Yeah. I'm looking for it. Should be a fun series.
You get in trouble for this, depending on the context. But I mean, the only time you see anything about Edmonton is on Discovery Channel, right?
Animals,
You're gonna be in the fucking wilderness somewhere. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing.
Were they
National Geographic in reference to Serena.
Were they in the background for Naked and Afraid? I can't remember.
I believe they've shot several seasons there. What are you talking about?
It's in the 40s there next week. It's in the
Really?
40s at night. At
Yeah,
night.
it's 3 a.m. and the temperature's 38 degrees. You have a snake wrapped around your neck and a bunch of spiders about to eat you alive, and you're naked and afraid. I wouldn't do well in that series, Dave. I've watched it a couple of times recently, but yeah, it's not for me. Dave, we love you, man. We'll look forward to more of your stuff in the South Florida Sun Sentinel, and it's always a pleasure. And thanks so much for getting up with us and being on the show.
Thanks, gentlemen. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave Hyde. Some very sobering opinions there about the series coming up. Dave Hyde, great perspective as always. And wow, can you believe that? He's right. I'm sure he was rooting for Dallas to.
Yeah, that's way better. Holy shit. Yeah, that's a way better.
I'll have to do a lot of research. I don't know what to come up with there. I was about to do today exactly what Dave had said he was experiencing, and that was, or went ahead and did to research his column, Edmonton versus Miami as a choice destination. You would think there would be 0 points.
Is it even fair? Should you just do Edmonton versus Sunrise? Maybe do Edmonton versus Sunrise.
Because Sunrise, to me, it's all part of the same thing here.
I know.
I still think of this area as Miami. I don't know about you, Lubie.
I'm just trying to give Edmonton a chance. Like Edmonton has, Buffalo versus us is already stupid.
Yeah.
Edmonton, what the fuck's in it? So at least if it's first Sunrise, I think they're still going to lose because Sunrise actually is a lot bigger than people give it credit. But
we got Landlubbers, right?
They do, but that's actually maybe Plantation.
Oh, Plantation, okay.
But I mean, the whole Sawgrass area is Sunrise, so that alone kicks Edmonton's ass. But at least it's not going Miami versus Edmonton. That's
you imagine? I mean, please. Have you ever known anybody that said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going on vacation. I'm going to Edmonton for a couple of weeks."
Again, I've heard Vancouver.
Vancouver, I understand. Is a nice place. Everybody says that.
Yes,
I mean,
I've never
the
heard
movie
it.
industry loves it. It looks very appealing, except for the fact that it's way the fuck out there.
Outside of those teams that were as good as any team outside the Canadians and the Islanders,
yeah,
those Edmonton Oilers teams were literally just like a fucking Hall of Fame team. Outside of that team, I would not know Edmonton.
Would you be shocked if Edmonton won the series?
I will.
I'm not at the point of shock, because nothing, overwhelmingly surprises me in the sporting world
They're
these days.
the best player in the sport, and the best player in the sport can carry people to titles. But again, the other teams that had the best player in the sport that won, Gretzky was surrounded by a fucking murderer's row. The Sydney
and they didn't treat Gretzky like Caitlin Clark.
But he had protectors though. Yeah, they did exactly. He had protectors. The Islander team was like 3 or 4 Hall of Famers. The Sidney Crosby team with the Penguins, again, were like 3 or 4 borderline, if not Hall of Famers. The Lightning team that won a lot, they had 2 or 3. Like all these teams in hockey that go and win with the great player are also surrounded by other players. I know they have this other guy you're talking about, but from what I've heard of this Edmonton team, they're not that. It's McDavid, and then there's a drop off.
Draisaitl was a huge scorer. That was a good reference by Dave Hyde, talking about him in the context of being Michael's Scottie Pippen, the best player in the game, possibly, and Connor McDavid. You could consider him that, and his Draisaitl benefits. The Hyman kid is usually a factor. I'm not sure. I mean, I wouldn't be equipped to tell you about the depth or lack thereof of the Edmonton Oilers, but it does appear that the Florida Panthers have those ingredients, and that they can go 4 lines deep and still be significant. Whereas some of the other teams just aren't anywhere close once they get past their second line. So Paul Maurice doing a great job with that. That was one of the observations made by a hockey expert whose opinion I respect. And, that seems to be the narrative of the series, that the Panthers' aggressive forechecking and depth, probably with Bobrovsky on his game, Lubie, on his game. If he falls apart, Lubie, wow, can you imagine if Bobrovsky is the reason that they lose the series in 6 to the Edmonton Oilers?
Goals a game because he's Bobrovsky, but he's playing really well. And again, that forechecking, I think, lends itself to his style. He's not bad when the puck's coming right at him. And that's what it is once in a while you get a breakaway, and outside of him falling down that 1-1 that Mayo doesn't blame him, that I blame him for, he actually holds strong in those. It's when he gets barraged. And that's what their defense has not been allowing.
And Edmonton only had the 10 shots, setting an all-time low record.
They don't do that, exactly.
In a playoff game, in their clinching game against the Dallas Stars. So if they're not going to be able to generate a lot of shots in general against Dallas, then how are they going to possibly, get rolling on offense against the Florida Panthers? And the Panthers have been dynamite too on the power play, which is where Edmonton got its 2 goals.
Defensively on the power play, they're great, and offensively, they're much better on the power play. Look, the logic all goes Panthers. That's why I would be shocked. It is hockey, like I said before. They got through the Rangers. You never fucking know. And again, the best player in the world on a team, he can make things happen. He can lift his team up. It is a hockey city. They're playing for a goddamn country. The country, again, hasn't won since 1993 with Montreal. So you never fucking know. But yes, it would be, even though before this series I disagreed, I actually have come around watching the way they've played, watching who they played. If they don't win, it would be a disappointment. It's not going to shock me because, again, it's hockey. But it would be a disappointment. I mean, everything is in their favor right now in a way that we've never seen with this team at this point of the season.
Slight favorites in the series. This is kind of an oddity, Lubie. Just was looking at the odds here. I know we're going to get out of here, but Panthers lay 130 to win 100 on the series. You get plus 110 with the Oilers on the series overall. But how about this oddity? And unless this is a misprint, it seems strange that the team that was favored in the series, when it comes to the most common pick, is usually whomever you like in 6. The Panthers, you get 5-1 if you pick them in 6 games, but you're only getting 450 to 1 if you're picking the Oilers in 6 games. Not a little bit strange, Lubie, where the team that's favored in the series is an underdog in the 6-game proposition bet?
I think they're scared to pick the Panthers. It's an area that doesn't love hockey. It's an area that isn't all the way in versus an area that lives for hockey, and an area that had a lot of success in years past versus an area that hasn't. I don't think they're judging the teams in that, to me, which is weird, because anyone who knows hockey is heavily leaning Panthers. So that's weird to me what they're doing there.
Which would scare me. I mean, if I'm obviously rooting for the Panthers at this point because of the novelty of winning the Stanley Cup. Even if you hated the team, you would just love to see South Florida get it one time. How
much can you hate them? That's the thing. That's what's interesting. Is like in other sports where we have
they're a likable team, though. They really are. I mean, they had back 2 years ago when they won the President's Trophy, but bombed out in the second round of the playoffs. They were a team that was exciting because they always kept coming back. Remember, from the grave, they'd be down 3-0 in the third period and come back and win 5-3.
Yes,
they were exciting to watch from that standpoint. And you had tremendous faith in their late game resiliency, as we talked about with FAU.
Yes,
that they would find ways to win games. Last year, very problematic, as Dave pointed out. It's hard to imagine that just a year ago. Now that we're riding the coattails of Sergei Bobrovsky and thinking he's good enough to carry the team to the Stanley Cup, or at least be a giant part of it.
I don't think he's good enough to carry them. That's my problem with him. But I think he's good enough to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with you. I mean, I watched enough of that Edmonton-Dallas series and a couple of the previous series involving the Oilers to think from just an overall judgment that the Panthers have played better opposition and been a better team of the two. So we'll see what happens. All right. Thanks so much for being with us today. It was a lot of fun. We'll do it again tomorrow. Tony Segreto will be going old school with us tomorrow, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. 1 o'clock today, the Mayo Lunchbox returns to Shenanigans, which is probably one of the great. I mean, at this point, I know there's only one location, but that makes it maybe even stronger as an entry in the and we love our people at Landlubbers, and there are many other fine sports bars around town, but has to be among the best in terms of overall sports bar. If there was a competition for the best sports bar and you took into account food, atmosphere, treatment of the customer, the way that they arrange everything, accessibility of the games you want to watch, you would have to say Shenanigans is up there with anybody. Patrick Utter does a tremendous job.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, as you just said. It's not only that they have all the TVs, not only that they are made for sports.
Great food, though, by comparison to most places.
Food very seriously. They do
high-end restaurant quality, no doubt.
Most of the stuff is scratch, and they're creative, and they use great ingredients. He has he's actually a highly acclaimed food background, and then he just decided to lean into his degenerate.
When the mahi sandwich is as good as any place you would go at a sports bar, you would have to trust almost anything that came out of the kitchen, no? And then he does those pizzas now. He bought that pizza oven off some guy, and it's really taken off. So, all right, so that's coming up at 1 o'clock today. For Mike Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. Our thanks to Dave Hyde for joining us. We'll see you guys tomorrow, the next edition of the Defo Show, as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:14.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done